the headlines of this hour on VTV News. Party chief meets public security officers. And later on, Vietnam's top legislator meets with Uzbek leaders. In our world news, many countries step up negotiations with the U.S. before U.S. new tariffs taking effect.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Good morning. It is 8 a.m. local time in Hanoi and you're watching VTV News. I'm Huyền Trân with the top stories. On the 50th anniversary of National Reunification Day, Party General Secretary To Lâm met with public security officers who have served on the southern battlefields. More on this in the following.
Adopting the spirit of all for the front line and for the country, the Party Committee and the Ministry of Public Security leadership dispatched nearly 13,000 officers and soldiers to the front. They courageously endured hardships, overcame immense challenges, and fought valiantly to achieve remarkable results. Their sacrifices enriched the proud legacy of People's Public Security Force.
1,000 soldiers heroically gave their lives and now rest forever on the sacred lands. Many others became wounded after years of intense combat. Their contributions have become integral to the glorious and heroic history of the People's Public Security Force. The fatherland, the people, and generations of police officers will forever honor and remember their devotion. We also recognize the challenges in the world today. Our foremost duty is to maintain national stability and safeguard sovereignty and freedom. Only with peace and stability can sustainable development goals be achieved.
The party chief reaffirmed the party and state's key policies, which focus on sustainable socio-economic development, fostering a new growth model, promoting self-reliance, advancing science and technology, innovation, and digital transformation.
At the same time, the country must continue to fulfill important tasks, ensuring stability and meeting growth targets, addressing international affairs and foreign relations, improving people's livelihoods, and pursuing administrative streamlining. Coordination and solidarity are needed to achieve these goals. I hope you will actively contribute ideas to the Party Congress documents and effectively implement the party's strategic directions in this new period.
The party chief believes that all of the People's Public Security Force officers and soldiers should strive to succeed in accomplishing the political missions entrusted to them.
Now shifting to an economic focus, Prime Minister Phie on Monday night chaired the third meeting to address new developments after the U.S. announced reciprocal tariffs on goods from several countries, including Vietnam. The government senior leader proposed that the U.S. postpone the imposition of its new tariff policy for at least 45 days to allow time for negotiation and transition. Concluding the meeting, he outlined 9 key tasks, emphasizing the need to negotiate for balanced, sustainable trade that benefits both sides and consumers, while safeguarding Vietnam's FTAs and international commitments. The Prime Minister called for boosting imports of U.S. goods, accelerating the delivery of Boeing aircraft, and thoroughly addressing U.S. concerns. And on Tuesday, while attending the announcement of the 2024 FTA Index, Prime Minister Phie stressed that Vietnam views international economic integration, particularly through free trade agreements, as a key gateway to connecting the country with the world and bringing its economy closer to global standards. More on this in the following.
At the ceremony, the Prime Minister stressed that the FTA Index is a new, data-driven, and systematic tool based for the first time on business surveys across 63 provinces and cities nationwide. It aims to provide transparent and objective data for the government, central agencies, and local authorities to manage economic integration. It will also serve as a foundation for policy formulation and local development strategies, contributing to sustainable export growth. The Prime Minister affirmed that integration is essential for the nation to keep pace, move forward, and even surpass its previous development progress.
Integration is an objective necessity. But integration is not just a red carpet lined with roses. It is full of thorns and challenges. It requires us to make constant efforts to catch up, move forward, and surpass. We must integrate while preserving independence and self-reliance. We do not accept integration at any cost. Integration based on dependence is absolutely unacceptable. We must stand tall with the core values of the Vietnamese people, with our 1,000-year-old cultural heritage and national unity. While we deeply respect and appreciate international friend support, our foundation must always be built from within.
The government will continue to promote measures to maximize the benefits of existing FTAs, improve the quality of international commitment implementation, expand markets, and pursue new FTAs with potential partners.
We engage in this game fairly, respecting the independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of other nations. We recognize that exports are a key driver, but not the only one. Many export markets are important, but not singular. Diversifying markets, products, and supply chains is the only way to safely and sustainably overcome these challenges.
Looking forward to businesses' market and production restructuring efforts, the Prime Minister affirmed the government's commitment to policy innovation, trade negotiations, and equal access to enterprise resources.
Also making our headline this bulletin are the meetings between National Assembly Chairman Trần Thanh Mẫn and Uzbek leaders and senior legislators in Tashkent on Tuesday. This was held during his official visit to the Central Asian country and attendance at the 150th Assembly of the Inter-Parliamentary Union. He also attended a bilateral business event. More in the following.
While meeting with the President of Uzbekistan, the National Assembly Chairman shared Vietnam's notable achievements in socio-economic development, political stability, and future direction. He emphasized that Vietnam values its time-tested friendship with Uzbekistan and hopes to strengthen it further to live up to the two countries' potential. The Uzbek president stressed the visit's significance in promoting relations and affirms that Vietnam is a traditional friend and an important partner of Uzbekistan in Southeast Asia. The two leaders agree that in the coming time, it is necessary to increase extensive, multi-level political dialogue between the Vietnamese and Uzbek parties, states, governments, and parliaments to maintain close coordination and mutual support for multilateral forums.
Also, on the same day, the Vietnamese National Assembly chairman held talks with Nuruddin Ismailov, Speaker of the Legislative Chamber of the Uli Majlis or the lower house of Uzbekistan. The two leaders welcomed a plan to open representative agencies in each other's countries, which would help strengthen the connection and deepen the bilateral relations. They also expressed their desire to strengthen parliamentary ties between the two nations. The Vietnamese leader called on Uzbekistan to continue creating favorable conditions for the Vietnamese community living, studying, and working in the Central Asian nation, thus serving as a vital bridge in promoting bilateral friendship.
The National Assembly chairman attended the Vietnam-Uzbekistan business dialogue earlier the same day. During this, he proposed a stronger partnership in agriculture and agricultural product processing, pairing Uzbekistan's cotton, fruit, and quality farm products with Vietnam's processing and agricultural expertise to build a supply chain for global markets, aided by the Eurasian Economic Union Vietnam Free Trade Agreement. Enterprises also expressed their wish for support from the two governments and parliaments to promote international cooperative business relations.
Coming up next on VTV News. Agricultural exports need response to new U.S. tariff policy. And Vietnam's economic growth maintains good momentum. Moving on to our world news, many countries are stepping up negotiations with the U.S. ahead of the expected date for their reciprocal tariffs to take effect on Wednesday afternoon. However, these negotiations are considered difficult and cannot be quickly concluded.
Speaking before leaving for Washington, South Korean Trade Minister Chung In-kyo said the government was considering a package of measures to increase imports from the United States to open the door to tariff negotiations.
It is difficult to reduce exports, so shouldn't we then increase U.S. imports? In that regard, we have been reviewing many different packages of measures to resolve the trade balance problem.
The European Union is also preparing for a difficult negotiating process ahead.
We have offered 0 for 0 tariffs for cars and all industrial goods. Second, let's be clear. However, engaging the U.S. will take both time and effort.
Previously, U.S. President Donald Trump rejected all calls to suspend new tariffs. According to U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer, nearly 70 countries have expressed interest in negotiating tariff policies with the U.S.
The Indonesian Central Bank announced on Monday that it will intervene aggressively in the domestic foreign exchange market to protect the local currency, following U.S. President Donald Trump's announcement of a 32% reciprocal tariff on goods imported from the Southeast Asian nation. The Indonesian Central Bank said that the intervention would come in the spot and non-deliverable forward and secondary bond markets, adding that it had already intervened offshore in the Asian, European, and New York markets. Indonesia's stock market dropped 9% in early trade on Tuesday, triggering a 30-minute trading halt, and the rupiah fell 1.8% to a record low. According to the Ministry of Agriculture and Environment report, the U.S. is currently the second largest export market, accounting for more than 20% of Vietnam's total agricultural, forestry, and fishery export turnover. Therefore, the U.S. announcement of a 46% reciprocal tax rate on Vietnamese goods has raised many concerns for domestic agricultural export businesses. Many solutions are proposed to cope with this situation.
This enterprise exports about 10,000 tons of honey annually, mainly to the U.S. market. News of the U.S. imposing a 46% reciprocal tariff on some Vietnamese products forces the enterprise to consider other options.
60% of our products are exported to the U.S. After the tax imposition, we had to find other markets and focus more on the domestic market.
Although the coffee industry has the advantage of not being on the list of products subject to reciprocal tariffs, in order to export sustainably, this enterprise has chosen to focus on deep processing and diversifying markets to avoid dependence.
We must convince U.S. partners that our products are 100% made in Vietnam. At the same time, we also have to find ways to diversify the market.
We will look for other export markets. However, with the U.S. market, which is Vietnam's main market, we need time to adapt to the changes.
According to industry associations, although the reciprocal tariff rate is 46%, it is applied differently to each industry. Therefore, to find a response, businesses need a more specific analysis and assessment of the tax schedule that will be applied to each Vietnamese agricultural, forestry, and fishery product when exported to the United States. For now, agricultural export enterprises are temporarily pausing new orders for the U.S. market to avoid risks.
On a positive note, Vietnam's economy maintained good growth in the first quarter of 2025 at 6.93%, surpassing figures from the same period over the past 5 years. Key economic sectors show substantial improvement, which has reinforced confidence among businesses.
In its latest macroeconomic update about Vietnam, Standard Chartered said that strong integration and continued FDI supported Vietnam's economy in the first quarter of this year. Meanwhile, the manufacturing sector showed recovery, with the PMI index surpassing the 50.0-point threshold for the first time in 4 months, indicating a rebound in new orders, according to S&P Global.
The Vietnamese manufacturing sector kicked into gear in March, seeing the first increases in output and new orders in 2025 so far. Firms will hopefully be able to build on these improvements in the months ahead.
Vietnam's exports continue to grow in the first quarter, fueled by a recovery in new orders. Standard Chartered forecasts a monthly trade surplus of $3.7 billion. Additionally, foreign direct investment, FDI, saw strong growth, with registered capital reaching nearly $11 billion, up 34.7% year-on-year.
According to a JETO survey, Japanese companies pointed out several advantages of the investment environment in Vietnam, such as market size and growth potential, low labor cost, and stable political and social conditions, which are rated higher than ASEAN average. The stable political and social conditions are due to the effort of the Vietnamese government, and Vietnam's stability stands out, especially amid current global tensions.
Eurocham's recent Business Confidence Index shows EU businesses' optimism in Vietnam's business climate with 64.6 points in the first quarter, despite global uncertainties. In addition, domestic consumption continued to be the country's key economic driver, contributing 60% to Vietnam's GDP, according to Fiber 2 Fashion.
We track consumer confidence in Vietnam, and we can actually see at the beginning of the year, we've seen a small dip. So it's not necessarily improving. On the other hand, we see a quite okay development in terms of Vietnamese willingness to spend, but we see that people are getting slowly more and more confident in spending.
Although inflation is still under control, Standard Chartered warned that persistent inflationary pressures could challenge Vietnam's monetary policies, suggesting that Vietnam consider flexible monetary policies amid trade risks.
Cao Bang Province on Tuesday held a ceremony to receive over $5 million in support from the Ministry of Public Security and launch a 180-day peak period to rid the province of temporary and dilapidated houses. Currently, 1,959 houses have been built. 1,714 are under construction, and construction of the remaining 3,412 houses will start before May 19th. All will be completed before September 30th, 2025. The housing program also presented 20 gifts to families eligible for support. Coming up next on VTV News. Exhibition to mark 50th anniversary of national reunification. And Europe records warmest March ever. The Ho Chi Minh Campaign Museum opened an exhibition entitled Ho Chi Minh City 50 Years of Glory, Heroic Epic on Tuesday. Nearly 500 images, documents, and artifacts themed as the Liberation Road, the historic Ho Chi Minh campaign, and pride in the city named after late President Ho Chi Minh are also on display. Also in the morning, the museum received many war relics donated by veterans, families, and private collectors. The exhibition will run until May 20th. And in related news, people and tourists gathered at Bạch Đằng Wharf to watch the artillery firing practice on the morning of April 8th, ahead of the 50th anniversary of national reunification celebrations. The soldiers were divided into groups and practiced firing 21 salutes in successions. The live ammunition firing took place quickly, lasting about a minute, while the rest was practice. The drill took place solemnly for about an hour. The 50th anniversary of the country's reunification is planned to include a military parade with about 13,000 people and a 15-gun salute, with 21 shots fired in time to the Vietnamese national anthem. And with just over 20 days until the parade marking the 50th anniversary of the liberation of the South and national reunification April 30th, 1975 to April 30th, 2025, preparations are in full swing. More than 13,000 participants will take part. Armed Forces personnel are training intensively to reenact the nation's heroic memory of the historic April 30th.
For over 3 months,